Chapter 2. How Amadis was begotten and born. At night, when all was hushed, Darletta rose, threw a mantle over her mistress, and they went into the garden. When Elsina came to the chamber door, her whole body trembled, and her voice that she could not speak. King Perion had fallen asleep. He dreamt that someone, he knew not who, entered his chamber by a secret door, who, thrusting a hand between his ribs, took out his heart and threw it into the river. He asked why that cruelty was committed, and was answered, "It is nothing. There is another heart left there, which I must take from you, though against my will." Then the king suddenly awoke in great fear, and blessed himself. At this moment the two damsels had opened the door, and were entering. He heard them, and being full of his dream, suspected treason, when he saw the door open behind the hangings, of which he had not known, and leapt from the bed. He caught up his sword and shield. "What is this?" cried Dorletta. The king then knew her, and saw that Elsina, his beloved. He dropped his shield and sword, and throwing a mantle about him, which was ready by the bed, he went and embraced her whom he loved. Darletta then took up the sword in token of his promise and oath, and went into the garden, and Perion remained alone with Elsina, in whom, as he beheld her by the light of the three torches, he thought all the beauty of the world was centered. When it was time that they should part, Darletta returned to the chamber. I know, lady," said she, "that heretofore you have been better pleased with me than you are now. But we must go, for time calleth us." Elsina rose. "I beseech you," said Perion, do not forget the place." And she departed with the damsel. He remained in his room and recollected his dream, which still affrighted him. A wish to know its significance made him desirous to return to his own country, where many wise men were skilful in the solution of such things. 10 days King Perion sojourned at Alma, and every night his beloved mistress visited him. Then it was necessary that he should depart, despite his own inclination, and the tears of Elsina. He took leave of Gartner and the queen, and having armed himself, he went looking for his sword to gird on. He missed it, though the loss grieved him, for it was a tried and goodly weapon. He durst not inquire for it, but making his squire procure him another, he departed straight for his own kingdom. Albeit, before his departure, Darletta came and told him of the great affliction and loneliness in which his lady was left. "I commend her to you, my friend," said he, "as mine own proper heart." Then taking from a finger a ring of two which he wore, each resembling the other, he bade her to carry it to his love. So Elsina remained, leading a solitary life, and in great grief. Darletta comforted her the best she could, and time passed on till she felt herself great with child, and lost the appetite for food and pleasure of sleep, and the fresh colour of her countenance. Then was the sorrow and carefulness greater, and not without cause, for it was in that time there was the law that any woman, of what quality or estate whatsoever, offending in such sort, could not excuse herself from death. So this so cruel and abominable custom endured till the coming of the good King Arthur, who was the best king that ever there reigned. He revoked it at the time when he slew Flavian in battle before the gates of Paris. And albeit because of the words of which Perion swore upon his sword, she was without fault before God, yet she was not before the world, for they had been so secret. To let him know her condition, and what she could not think, for he was young and proud of heart, and took no delight elsewhere than where renown was to be gained, and so was for ever going an errant knight from one place to another. So she found no remedy for her life, yet the loss of life did not afflicted her so much that of her dear and beloved lord. But God, by whose permission all this had come to pass for his holy service, gave such discretion to Darletta that she remedied all. In the palace of King Gartner there was an arched chamber separated from the rest, which overlooked the river, which had a little iron door through which damsels sometime were wont to go out by the water side, but now none inhabited the apartment. This chamber by Darletta's advice did Elsina request of her father, as suiting her disposition in solitary life, where she might perform her prayers undisturbed, with no companion but Darletta, who had always served and accompanied her. This request she lightly obtained, and hereupon was the key of the iron door given to Darletta, to open it when pleased the princess to recreate herself by the river. Here was Elsina somewhat comforted, to find herself in a place so convenient for her purposes. She required counsel from her damsel what should be done with the fruit she travailed withal. What? Replied Darletta, must I suffer to save you? Holy Mary, then, said Elsina, shall I consent to destroy the child of him whom I love best in the world? Leave alone those thoughts, answered. The damsel answered, if they kill you, they will not spare the infant. It were great folly to destroy yourself and your lover, who would not live after you, for the sake of saving the child, who, if you die, must die also. As this damsel was of quick mind herself, and now guided by the grace of God, she determined to have the remedy ready before the need, and it was in this guise she took 4 boards, and with them made an ark large enough to contain a new-born child and its garments, long enough for the sword. She fastened them together with bitumen, in such sort as the water should have no place to enter. She hid all this under her bed till she had completed it, and it was even and close as if a master had made it. Then she showed it to Elsina, and asked for what she thought it was designed. She answered, I know not. You shall know, said the damsel, when needs is. Elsina replied, but I little do care to know what is done or what is said, for I am near to lose all my joy and comfort. Then had Darletta great grief, and she went apart, not bearing to see her mistress weep. It was not long before her travail came, and in those new and strange pains, and bitterness of heart, and not daring to cry out or groan, it pleased the Lord that she was safely delivered of a son. The damsel took him in her arms, and saw the boy was a fair boy, and he had not been born to hard fortune. And had he not been born saw that the boy was a fair boy, had he not been born to hard fortune. But she delayed not to execute what of necessity had been resolved. She wrapped him in rich garment, and laying him by his mother, brought the ark. Elsina cried, what will you do? Place him here, she answered, and launched him down the stream, and belike he may escape. Then the mother took him in her arms, and wept bitterly over him. But Darletta took ink and parchment, and wrote upon it, this is Amadeus, son of a king. It was the name of her saint and great reverence in that country. She covered the parchment with wax, and hung it by a string around the neck of the babe, and Elsina fastened upon the string the ring which King Perion had given her at his departure. Darletta then placed the infant in the ark, and laid his father's sword beside him. This done, she covered the ark, which was securely joined and cocked, and, opening the iron door, took it in her arms, and placed it in the river, commending it to God.